What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch here, live for your NFL weekly review. It is the first weekly review of your 2022 NFL playoffs, the Super Wildcard Weekend review, which, by the way, I absolutely despise adding Super to the Wildcard Weekend name. Can we just simplify it, bro? Wild Card Weekend. That's all I need in my life. I don't need no Super. Super Bowl is good enough, okay? That belongs to the Super Bowl. Super Bowl. I do not need Super Wild Card Weekend because I'm going to talk about it at the end of the show. It's the main event. The main event is discussing these 7 seeds. And I got to tell you, the NFL has to go back to the traditional format because these 7 seeds are, quite frankly, not getting the job done. They are not tasty at all. I am not satisfied by watching these 7 seeds. Bro, I could barely sit through the live stream of the Sunday night game between the Chiefs and the Pittsburgh Steelers. If it wasn't for you guys in the live stream, in the live chat, giving me comments, asking me questions, I wouldn't have been able to do it. So before we get started, shout out to you people, those of you that have been through every live stream, that have been to every live stream, and that have been there super chatting, have been there commenting, have been there Gronk spiking the like button. Thank you, all of you. And let's continue that for divisional round because it was a lot of fun. I had to sit through a lot of terrible football games. But you guys were there to support me, so I appreciate that. Before we get started here, make sure that you do follow me on Twitter at Mitch Milani, M-I-L-A-N-I, and on Instagram, you can follow the channel at The Bottom Line View. Also, if you have any ideas for content that we could do on the Instagram, because that's definitely something that I want to start building into the offseason, then let me know. Comment your opinions or thoughts on that in the comment section, and I'll definitely take that into account for some content that you'd guys like to see over there, because I want it to be exclusive and different from what we do here on YouTube. Thank you guys all for watching. And before we do get started, I see my guy Lenny B is in the chat, so I want to play the Lenny B intro. Let's get rolling. Jones is my favorite quarterback in the 2021 NFL Draft. San Francisco 49ers are legit in 2019. Tom Brady is going to win the Super Bowl with the Bucs this year. Tom Brady is going to win the Super Bowl with the Bucs. I mean, that was my best call ever, I think. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But maybe it's going to happen again, guys. Maybe it's going to happen again. We'll see this week. They've got a great matchup. We'll talk about all the matchups for divisional round. If you guys have any thoughts on that, let me know in the comment section for divisional round. We're going to talk about that tomorrow with my picks. And I got to get down and dirty into those matchups. But we're going to talk about first, okay, what happened on Wild Card Weekend and breaking down specifically how these teams won and how they moved on, and my thoughts and opinions on a lot of the different things that happened this weekend. So, let's begin first with the shout-outs to the BLV GOATs on Patreon. If you want to support me and get my bets every single week on Patreon, if you also want to get the exclusive content on Patreon, which includes the BLV versus Consensus podcast, where myself, Lenny, Ultra, and Durkant break down every matchup in the playoffs. You can get that for just $3. You can get my bets for $5 every week. Did pretty well this weekend, NFL Wildcard Weekend, in terms of the bets. So make sure you check that out. Also, if you're maybe a little bit different and you would rather, maybe you're not a bettor. Maybe you don't go out there, you gamble all this money. But maybe you do want to support the channel in a different way. And maybe you love the live streams. What you could do is you could become a YouTube member here on YouTube, become a BLVer, and you'll get exclusive things for the live chats, such as badges, you know, beside your name, So check that out. Definitely have to check out the desktop version though. I'm not sure what YouTube's doing, but if you get on the desktop version, you'll see a big giant join button beside the subscribe. You can click that and then you can become a YouTube member for $3 a month and a BLVer. All right. So now that we have those plugs out of the way, make sure that you do spike the like button and let's get started. What's going on? Jin, Yash, JR Meadows, Lenny B, Valley, Isaac, Wavy Wave, what's up? We've got the Sports Goat, Edwin, what's up? He says, what's going on, bro? Jagoat Chase, what's going on? Mr. Peter, we've got Jeremy, we've got Ultra, who's actually in the chat. Wow. Sing. And Luca says, the handsome Italian guy for the win. Luca, I know that you love yourself, but bro, you don't got to give yourself all this credit. I know you're talking about Jimmy G. I'm just kidding with you, but Luca's a handsome guy himself, a handsome Italian guy himself. Thank you for joining the chat. What's going on, guys? The Flicker says, what's up, Mitch? Those handsome Italian guys getting things done. I'm just going to say that much. All right, let's get to our first topic, which is we're going to start at the end and not work ourselves back to the beginning. We're going to go end, beginning, and then everything in between. Because it's really hard for me to start at the beginning when it feels like Saturday was so long ago. I don't know about you guys. Let me know what you think about that. I just feel like having the Monday night game on a wild card weekend feels like these games were so far apart. I don't know what it is about that, but Monday night playoffs. So we had Monday night playoffs, and it was the Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams. And personally, we couldn't have gotten a less entertaining game on that setting. They wanted to put Monday Night Football, big lights, big matchup, NFC West football, and what we got was a steaming pile of donkey poop. That's what we got from the Arizona Cardinals. They were absolutely dreadful, guys. The Arizona Cardinals did not show up in this game. And I have a few things to say about this game. First, let's start with Cliff Kingsbury. Cliff Kingsbury came out today, guys, and you can check this for yourself on the Twitter machine. He came out and said that we need to get our running backs 25 carries or 10, I don't know what it was, 15 carries each. He thought that he was going to win the game with 30 running back carries. This just says to me that Cliff Kingsbury has no idea what he's doing. I mean, what is he doing? This guy, it looked like the Arizona Cardinals didn't practice all week long. Kyler Murray was stunned out there. He was stunned out there. He didn't know what was going on. Cliff Kingsbury was completely outcoached, completely outprepared, no wrinkles to his offense at all. The only reason this game wasn't an absolute embarrassment is because at least Vance Joseph, who in my opinion is the superior coach on Arizona, came to play with a game plan. And at least Vance Joseph said, we're going to double team Cooper Kupp and let everyone else beat us. And quite frankly, Arizona just doesn't have the personnel to stop the Rams. They don't have the corners. They don't have the front to stop the run. J.J. Watt, without him, it might have been a massacre, quite honestly. Because J.J. Watt, credit to him, came through with, I thought, a pretty good game. Especially when it come to the lone plays that Arizona actually blew the run up. J.J. Watt was the reason why. So, like, without J.J. Watt, the game might have been a complete embarrassment. And the fact that this team lost so poorly with J.J. Watt and the spark that he gave them to come out and win this game is so embarrassing to me. It's so embarrassing to me. At least Vance Joseph said, yo, we're not going to let Cooper Kupp beat us, so, take those shots to Odell. Quite frankly, though, Arizona just doesn't have the corners to play man-to-man on Odell Beckham Jr. Even if you don't think he's what he used to be, he's still going to beat you in the red zone, in between the 20s. It doesn't really matter. Okay, Tyler Higbee had a pretty good game. We'll talk about the Rams here in a second, but back to the Cardinals. The offense, what are you doing? Kyler Murray, the Munchkin himself, the king of the Munchkins, okay? This guy is just avoiding throwing, easy completions. Every play, I feel like there's a guy open for 5 yards, and he just doesn't throw it to him. He's just like, I don't want to throw it to him. I'm going to run around and try to find the 25, 30-yard play. Well, the Rams are playing everyone back. They're just dropping into easy zone coverages. Everybody's dropping back into coverage. They're sending 4 every time. I don't think Kyler was really ever blitzed, maybe twice. The guy's running into the sack. This was Kyler Murray's worst game of his career. Easily. I have not seen a worse Kyler Murray game. He was totally awful on first and second down. They couldn't run the ball on first and second down. So literally every third down was a disaster. And that is, to me, where the game was won and lost, guys. Take a look at this evidence for you on third down. Okay, let's take a look at the Rams on third down. The Rams faced 1 third down and 10. That's it. 1 third down and 10 and plus. And this is because they could run the ball and they executed on early downs. And this is why I always say early downs, first down is the most important down to me, not third down. Everyone talks about third down conversion rate. What's your first down success rate? That matters to me more, because if you can avoid third down, if you can play CFL football, if you can play Sean Payton football, then you can avoid third down completely. Okay? And the only chance that the Cardinals had was being good on first and second down, and they were dreadful. Now, let's take a look at the third downs. The Rams come out, they run for like a 35-yard gain on the first play of the game, and that set the tone. That set the tone for what we were going to see for the rest of the game. Sony Michel, Cam Akers did their work on the ground, and the Rams pushed the Cardinals front all over, up and down the field. From west to east, from north to south, it didn't really matter, okay? So the Rams third downs. 1 third and 10, which was actually the first drive of the game, I believe, or maybe the second. Okay, so that ended up in a punt. They got 3 yards, made it 4th and 7, and they punted. Other than that, what do we got? 3rd and 1. Okay, quarterback sneak for a first down. 3rd and goal at the 4-yard line. Odell Beckham Jr. fade touchdown. 3rd and 2, 16 yards to Odell Beckham. Again, 3rd and 2 is very easy to convert. You can rather hand it off. You can throw. Really, the whole playbook is open. 3rd and goal at the 1. Another quarterback sneak for a touchdown. 3rd and 3. That's a gain of 10 to Higbee. Again, 3rd and 3. 3rd and 2. Again, easy to convert because you can run or you can pass. 3rd and 8. Pass interference on Byron Murphy for a first down on Cooper Kupp. 3rd and 1, negative 4 yards and a field goal. That was the Rams all day on third down. They had 1 3rd and 10, which resulted in a punt. Every other drive, it was a 3rd and 1, and I'm not including the second downs that were converted to first downs. I'm just talking specifically about third down. Now look at third down. 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, 3rd and goal, 3rd and 1. That's it. That's all we got. Now the Cardinals third downs, guys. This is downright embarrassing. Downright embarrassing, okay? 3rd and 6, which was, by the way, the closest they got, setting up a third down and manageable. 3rd and 6 on the first drive of the game. After that, 3rd and 11, 3rd and 16, 3rd and 17, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 15, 3rd and 8, which then turned into a 4th and 4 and a conversion, 3rd and 10, and that was the end of the game. So the Cardinals on third down, the best they could do on early downs was getting it to a 3rd and 6. And like I said, the best way to win on third down is to avoid it. The Cardinals didn't just not avoid it. They put themselves in the worst positions possible by trying to run the ball, which they clearly couldn't early, and then Kyler was just not taking yards. He was just like, bro, I don't want them. Where is the 25-yard crosser that I'm looking for? Right? Third and 3 was nowhere to be found. 3rd and 2 was nowhere to be found here. The Cardinals were thoroughly dominated on both sides on early downs, and that's why they lost. Kyler Murray's game-breaking ability on third down was negated. It didn't matter. The Cardinals' blitz packages on third down was negated. It didn't matter because the Rams didn't get to 3rd and 8. Right? So the Rams moving forward, if they're going to go on a run, that's what needs to continue to happen for them. if they're going to play the Bucs and they're going to be in 3rd and 9, they're probably going to have to punt. So just think about that moving forward. But again, I have seen very few playoff teams that were so unprepared for a football game, that came out so flat for a football game. And this felt like it happened 3 or 4 times, where the team that ended up winning just came out with a better punch this weekend. Like, the Bills took it to the Patriots. At least the Patriots responded with a long drive from their offense that resulted in a Micah Hyde interception. The Cardinals just flat out got beat down. Like, early on in the Niners game, they took it to the Cowboys. Early on in not the Chiefs game. It actually didn't happen in the Chiefs game. And then, what was the other one that happened? Missing one. The Bucs game, where they just smacked them in the face. So that's crazy. So a few things about this game. I thought Odell came to play. I thought he looked really good. He made a few key plays in the game. Of course, the touchdown, a couple 3rd down conversions. I thought Stafford was pretty good. Overall, made enough throws. But I will say this about Stafford, and I love Matthew Stafford. He didn't have to do a heck of a ton. He played really good, but he only threw 17 passes. Like, let's not get it twisted here. I love Matthew Stafford, but the reason the Rams won is because they thoroughly dominated on both sides of the football. Which, again, guys, that never happened for the Lions when Matthew Stafford was on the team. It was always having to be Matthew Stafford throwing it 38 times to win the game. And that's the difference between being in a good organization with a good head coach and a good defense and a good line and all that stuff, which is what he has now. So Stafford can win games now where he's throwing it 17 times. That didn't happen when he was on Detroit. And that's what I think people are missing, right? It's now it feels like people that are giving Stafford credit are retroactively giving him credit for what he used to do with Detroit, which is probably more impressive than he is doing now. Because even though his numbers are great now, like, he was always the same player. It's just that these games resulted in losses because he wasn't helped around him to the same degree. Is Stafford a all-time quarterback? No. But has he probably proven that a lot of people were wrong about him retroactively? Yes. I think that's correct. And by winning this game in a game where he was 13 for 17, he was super efficient, he made big-time throws down the field. But again, he wasn't put in these 3rd and 12s like Kyler Murray was. He wasn't put in 3rd and 17. And this is the same problem that we would see with Dak Prescott in the Niners game as well. So Kyler Murray played like a dummy on 1st and 2nd down. And then it hurt him on 3rd down. Kyler Murray also just looked like he was completely not ready for the bright lights and the playoff atmosphere. And by the way, I gotta say, I think the Rams not being able to get a top 2 seed it might end up hurting them. It might be the reason they don't go to the Super Bowl, because the Rams stadium with those fans is absolutely bonkers. It almost reminds me a little bit of like the old RCA Colts Dome, where it sounded like they piped in noise, which I'm not so sure that the Rams don't do. I'm just going to be honest with you. But it's super loud and like super crazy, and that energy was next level on Monday night. So credit to the Rams fans. I noticed that same thing when they played the Bucs earlier in the year, and now they're going to have to go to Tampa Bay. How much better would it be for the Rams if they were playing in LA in this next game versus the Bucs? Like, I feel like that would give them a super edge. I think we saw that in a few games. The Bengals game was actually surprising with how loud the jungle got. In that game. I thought the Rams defense looked pretty fast. Their front looks really dangerous when they're able to rush the passer, and that's why they're so good on 3rd down, because they have the capacity to get to you with 3 or 4 rushers, right? Von Miller looked solid. I thought Aaron Donald was Aaron Donald. Leonard Floyd was Leonard Floyd. But what we weren't able to see was the Cardinals, like I said, they weren't taking advantage of what was there on the early downs to be had in the passing game. I'm intrigued how that looks, and really the Rams were not tested with those safeties, those backup safeties that were playing, and they did a good job of covering those guys up and making so that they weren't a huge factor in the game. The other thing about the game is kind of odd, but just statistically, the Rams, they only had 16 first downs and 375 yards, although it felt like they had like 26 first downs and 500 yards. But that was just how uneventful and like terrible the Cardinals offense was. It was so inept. It never got anything going. It just didn't really end up mattering what the Rams offense would do on any given drive, whether it was a punt, whether it was a field goal or a touchdown. It really just felt like the Cardinals for an entire 3 quarters, they could not get anything going. And the Rams defense completely shut them down and completely tore them apart and completely picked them apart. Again, guys, third down was dreadful. 0 for 9 on third down were the Cardinals. 0 for 9. But it wasn't because of just third down. It was because of the early downs. So that's kind of my story of the game overall and what the Rams need to be moving forward if they want to have success. They need to continue to run the ball successfully, which is going to be a challenge next week. They've got to continue to take those easy completions when they're there on early downs and then avoid those third and longs, because that, I think, is where they can be had, right? Putting that offensive line in stressful situations. We saw Andrew Whitworth actually be hurt and early in the game, and that's where we saw them lose these games, right? We saw them lose to the 49ers. We saw them lose to the Titans, and those games are where games they weren't so good running the ball. They weren't so good on the early downs, and that's where they were torn apart, and Stafford began to throw the ball to the other team. So I'm just thoroughly disappointed with the Cardinals, their effort. Cliff Kingsbury, I think there are big-time questions about whether he should be the guy moving forward, whether he should be the coach moving forward. There's big-time questions about Kyler Murray in terms of his development. But look, the Rams are the more talented team. They won that game. And Sean McVay continues to own Cliff Kingsbury. Outside of that one game early in the year, he's owned that coach. I think he's lost once. He's won 7 times out of 8 or something. So credit to the Rams. They got the business done. They got momentum doing it, and they fulfilled their promise. And don't get it twisted. The Rams are in it this year to win the Super Bowl. If they don't win the Super Bowl this year, it's a disappointment for the LA Rams, period. They traded for Matthew Stafford. They picked up Odell. They picked up Von Miller. The reason they did that, knowing they don't have a lot of cap space, is because they want to win the Super Bowl this year. This is their opportunity. And they came out with the energy. They came out with the next level. And this was a common theme throughout a lot of the playoff games. The next level. Which teams had that next playoff level, that playoff intensity? Because believe it or not, the regular season is not the playoffs. There's maybe a few games throughout the course of a season that feel like the playoffs. You can point to them, and you can usually tell what those games are. And the best teams this week rose to the occasion and played like a legit contender. And a lot of the teams that simply didn't have that level got smacked. The Eagles, the Steelers, the Patriots. These teams got absolutely whooped. The Cardinals, because they didn't have that level, that playoff level that you need. And with those X-Factor teams that you look at as contenders, you say, I saw that little bit of eye of the tiger. I saw that little bit of just that gear pushed to the next level. That they might have what it takes. And I think I saw that with the Rams. Now I want to see how that energy and momentum travels. Because it's one thing to do it at home in front of your crazy fans, but can you do it on the road versus level competition versus a great team? And that is where the Rams are going to be tested. If they can do that, which they're just as talented as the Bucs, if not more, can they have that same intensity as Tom Brady and the Bucs will have in that game? We'll break down that game tomorrow. Okay? So those are my overall thoughts with that game. There's not a heck of a lot to say other than those things, but I do think that Cliff Kingsbury is certainly on the hot seat. I would give him probably one more year. If it was me and I was in charge, I'd probably give him one more year to prove to me that he has what it takes, because this is the first time. You really look at it on paper, right? So the first year, you have a tough year. It's Kyler's first year. Happens. Okay. Second year, you're developing. You're getting better. You're close to the playoffs, but you're not quite a playoff team. This year, in a tough division, the NFC West, you make the playoffs. Credit to you. Round of applause. But you don't have that extra gear in the playoffs. Next year, that's the question. Do you have that extra gear? And you should have it. Make whatever tweaks to your roster you need to do. Make whatever re-signings. If you don't have that extra gear next year, it's time to go. It's time to find somebody that will get that extra gear out of Kyler Murray, because really there's no excuses to not have it next year. So I think the Cardinals are on pace with where they want to be, and don't overreact to this loss, even as embarrassing as it was. And with the Rams, I think they're clearly at a different level with a different mindset. The Cardinals look like a team that believed they couldn't win. The Rams look like a team that have that belief. So those are my overall thoughts with that Monday night playoff game. Next game, let's go all the way back. Let's track back to the Bengals and the Raiders. Okay, so I think there was a slight difference between these two teams in terms of psyche as well. When you're talking about the Bengals, they're led by Joey Swag Burrow. This guy is as swaggy as they come. Did you not see his sunglasses? The only guy on the planet that has cooler sunglasses is Ultra. That is it. Okay? Anybody else cannot go toe-to-toe with Joe Burrow. Okay? And that swagger and that confidence. And the difference in the psyche to me was one team believed that, and that is the Bengals, that they're ready, that it is their time, that they're here to prove in front of the world and in front of the jungle that they can win in this league. And the Raiders, it felt like, while they gave a good effort, it felt like they were more so, especially early in the game, happy to be there. We're a good story, we're a great story, but we're happy to have made the playoffs. And I think you see that with both fan bases as well. The Bengals fans, I haven't seen that type of energy from Bengals fans in years. Years. Yash was losing his mind the whole game in the live chat. And the Raiders just felt like, we don't quite believe we're it. And maybe that is because of Joe Burrow. But you look at this game, and I think it was evident early on that the Bengals were the more talented team. I think just the fact that Joe Burrow was on the money. He was hitting every throw. It was just absolute target practice at certain points for them. Felt like at certain points during that game, Cincinnati could not be stopped. I mean, the Raiders weren't getting any pressure with that front four that was supposed to be the reason they were going to win the game. Was the X factor. I said, if the Raiders are going to win, they've got to win with the front four. They weren't able to do it. They didn't have the corners to go toe-to-toe with that receiving core. I mean, they needed to double Chase. Like, it was evident within 3 plays of the game. Chase just lined up on the right and just ran comeback after out route after just slant. It didn't matter what he was running. It was just easy money. Consistently, Burrow was putting it on the money, back shoulders. Just like Chase just took over early. That connection took over early, and the Raiders clearly didn't have anybody to cover that guy. And I don't think anybody does. I don't know. I don't know if anybody could cover that guy. They're a problem. I'm just going to say they're a problem. And then the Raiders, I like the fight at the end. Derek Carr made some plays. That one throw he made to Darren Waller was very impressive down the seam when he needed it the most. And I want to give credit to Derek Carr because that guy had a very good season. And I think if I was the coach and I was the GM of the Raiders, I'd be proud of how he's led this team, how he's inspired the Raider Nation, and how he was able to get them to where they wanted to go. But it was clear and evident that they weren't talented enough to win that game. It was clear and evident that the Bengals were the better team. Easily. Their offensive line actually surprised me. They pass blocked well. They ran it when they needed to. Defensively, the Bengals do concern me. I wasn't super impressed by their defense. I think there's definitely quarterbacks and offenses that can scheme and dink and dunk their way down the field to have success. I do think that the Titans could potentially pose some problems in the running game, although the Bengals have been stronger in the running game. And I think it's really going to come down to, if the Bengals want to beat the Titans, it might just come down to, can Joe Burrow just be special once again? Because that's what he's going to have to be to go to Tennessee and win that game as an underdog. I won't count it out because the guy looks special and the guy's playing special. And Chase is an absolute nightmare out there. But yeah, I mean, I think we just learned our lesson about the Bengals. Like, they're here, and I think they're here to stay because of their quarterback, number 9, and because of some of the special players that they do have. So, good game for them, great win for them, and I found that game to be maybe the best of the whole weekend, honestly. The first game immediately had that playoff energy, and I really enjoyed it. So, let me know your thoughts on that. Moving forward, I'm intrigued to see what we get out of the Raiders and where they take the direction of their franchise. New coaching staff, new GM. Mike Mayock's on the way out, so what do they do there? Definitely have some holes to fulfill. Oh, final point about the Raiders. I just felt like Gus Bradley never adjusted. And again, I don't think Gus Bradley can win you games in the playoffs. I think he's great at the fundamentals. I think he's great at making a bad defense a decent defense, but I don't think he'll ever make this unit great unless he has special talent. You know, I think a lot of Raiders fans will disagree with me, but I just think the lack of versatility is just evident with their defense. Every time they run into a certain type of quarterback and a certain type of offense who knows how to attack this defense, it becomes clear that he can't make those adjustments to put his defense over the top or get his defense that stop that they need. So personally, I think Gus Bradley definitely let us down from the Raiders' perspective. But I think Derek Carr, Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Zay Jones, Josh Jacobs, they kept them in the game and they made it at least entertaining, unlike the Arizona Cardinals. Oh, the next subject. Oh boy. So we have the Kansas City Chiefs putting the Steelers to bed. They put Big Ben to bed. And thank you, Chiefs. I mean, if I had to watch one more Steelers game, I don't think I can make it. I don't think I'd be able to make it through one more Steelers game. But I'm going to be honest with you guys. I do not think I learned a single thing about the Kansas City Chiefs. A lot of people are sitting here and doing their review shows and they're saying, oh, the Chiefs are back and they're on their way to the Super Bowl. And whoa, I told you they're back and this and that. And it's like, they played the Steelers. And we'll talk about the 7 seeds, but they were downright dreadful all across the board. They do not belong. And the Steelers were evidence of why this team did not belong. Guys, I talked about it with Thomas of Catch the Blitz on the AFC show. And he actually brought up a good point. He's like, Mitch, where would you rank the Steelers in the AFC? And I was like, wow, that is a good question. I don't think they're as good as the Chargers. I don't think they're as good as the Colts. And he's like, I don't know if they're as good as my Dolphins. It's like, yeah, you might be right. Like, the Steelers were like not even a 7 seed. They felt like a 10 seed playing the Chiefs this week. They played a little bit better than that first game, I think. It was less embarrassing. It was less of a rout through the first half. But once the Chiefs figured it out, it was just too much. I mean, they were clearly like 3 levels above the Steelers. And the thing about that game was the Steelers' offense was so downright dreadful that you never got the sense that even when the Steelers got the pick 6 or whatever with J.J. Watt, that they would never be able to win the game because they just can't score. Like, how many just deep fade balls did Ben throw to absolutely nobody in the vicinity? Like, how many times do I've got to watch Ben Roethlisberger just chuck the ball down the field to Chase Claypool or Deontay Johnson, and half the time it ends up out of bounds? Like, it ends up being uncatchable, like, half the time. So the guy was absolutely washed. The running game was non-existent. They got 0 push up front. Matt Canada is an absolute joke, like, of an offensive coordinator. The worst coordinator there is. And Mike Tomlin comes out and says that he has faith in Matt Canada. What in the blue are you watching, Sir Tomlin? That is so bad. They were so bad on offense. They have no game plan, no creativity. It's like short little underneath crosser to Deontay or fade ball to Claypool or loss of 2 to Damian Harris on a swing pass. What else do you got for me? There is no reason this offense, even with a washed quarterback, should be as bad as it is with that talent at wide receiver, tight end, and running back. That is not bad talent at all. Even James Washington mossed a dude in the game. Like, they're not bad at wide receiver. You had Juju back in the game. They're not terrible at wide receiver. They're not terrible at running back. They're not terrible at tight end. I could understand. But Matt Canada is terrible. He's got to go. He's the worst coordinator I saw all year. And there's some bad coordinators, okay? I watched Jason Garrett this season. And Matt Canada is worse. And Ben is retiring. And I love the guy, but clearly he had nothing left to give. We were either going to get the fountain of youth, or we were going to get what we got, which was retirement home Ben. On the other side, the Steelers defense played admirably for about a quarter and a half, and then they just started leaving guys wide open. And just, like, this is my problem here, right? Mahomes had great stats in the game. And I don't mean to get on Patrick Mahomes and be the hater and this and that. But, like, guys, was Mahomes really that good in this game? How many screen passes did he throw in this game? I don't know what the stats say. You guys let me know. He must have thrown 25 different screen passes in this game. And I credit Andy Reid. That guy had a heck of a game plan and a heck of a play calling day, because he was off the charts with all these different screens that they were throwing and wide open players. I think Mahomes made one really nice throw, which was the scramble to the right. And I think he found, was it Tyreek Hill for a touchdown? That was a really nice throw. Other than that, it was just like screen left, screen right, touch pass, McKinnon out of the backfield, like nothing too complicated here. And I think that is something to spin this into a positive for Kansas City that was very, very impressive, was their plethora of attack from a underneath and behind the line of scrimmage standpoint. They attacked the Steelers without having to deal with the pass rush, right? And Andy Reid, and this is what I always say about great coaches, how do you lose the game? Andy Reid understood that the only way the Chiefs were going to lose the game was through that pass rush. And he negated it by going through all these different screen passes and all these different ways for Mahomes to get rid of the ball very quickly. So, yes, you say he had 400 yards, 5 touchdowns. The game was very, very, very mediocre from his standpoint. I thought it was just so special from an Andy Reid standpoint and what they were able to do after the catch against this defense. And even when he had to make throws down the field, it was easy completions. So that to me speaks more to the offense and what they're able to do at this level. And now I think versus Buffalo, we're going to have to see Mahomes raise his level of game from a high, just difficulty throw perspective, because the Bills are going to challenge you in a way that I don't think the Steelers were capable of doing so. But yeah, man, the Chiefs, I didn't learn much just because the Steelers are so dreadful. And that sucks, because I wanted to know what I was going to get out of the Chiefs next week. I expect a great game. But I can't say that was a bye. Like, that was a glorified bye week. And I do want to say this about McKinnon. McKinnon is their guy. He's got to be their guy. He was really good in this game. He looked really good. He looked like the best Chiefs running back since Damian Williams in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. Like, McKinnon actually provides them with a running back that can run and catch the ball and run routes and make people miss. He fits this offense a lot better than a guy like Darrell Williams. You know, Darrell Williams can catch and stuff, but he's like more of a power back. Like, this offense, they need that, and this is what they thought they were getting in Clyde. McKinnon is a guy that can make you misses. McKinnon's a guy that can run routes, that can catch the ball. This is a guy that's good in the screen game. Like, he was really good in the game, and that is something that I learned, is that I think Jerick McKinnon should be their guy moving forward at that position. Defensively, I mean, I couldn't learn anything because it was so pathetic from the Steelers. Like, so pathetic. I can't even, if I have to see Ben throw the ball 20 yards again, I might shoot myself live on air. I'm going to be honest with you. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about the game. Chiefs, we'll see what they look like versus the Bills. Obviously, everybody's hyping them up. They're pumping them full of gas. Okay, cool. Like, we'll see. Their playoffs comes down to this game versus Buffalo. They've got a good chance to win. They're at home. This is where you're truly going to be tested. They had a glorified bye week. All right. Next up, we've got the Bills. The Bills. The boy I love losing Super Bowls, Buffalo Bills. Josh Allen and the Bills. First, before we get to the Patriots, I want to credit the Buffalo Bills for absolutely handing us our ass twice this season. So, thank you for that. Shout out to the Bills Mafia for jumping through flaming tables and looking like Mick Foley in WrestleMania 22, I believe it was. Correct me if I'm wrong. The Buffalo Bills look scary. Like, downright scary. Like, downright the best team in the NFL right now. That is what they look like to me versus the Patriots. I understand the Patriots aren't a great team, okay? And I understand that they weren't playing their best football. But the Buffalo Bills did not punt in 2 games versus the New England Patriots. That is ludicrous. The record in the playoffs for not punting in straight drives is 5. They scored 7 straight touchdowns. That's nuts. Josh Allen, immediately, the first play of the game, I was like, oh boy. This guy was unbelievable. He was unbelievable. He was running through people. He made 250-pound linebackers look like children. He's putting the ball at perfect spot every time. Every time. Perfect spot. Perfect spot. Perfect spot. Receivers are running open. I mean, every play, it didn't matter what they did. And that's what I'm saying early on. They had that different level. The Patriots didn't have that gear. And that's okay, right? That's okay, Patriots fans. They understand, and this is good for the Patriots. We'll talk about New England. They can now understand what they need to do to get better. And that's a good thing, right? You made the playoffs, that's great. With a rookie quarterback, that's phenomenal. But now you can understand what to do to get better because the Bills just annihilated you. Annihilated you. Ryan Fitzpatrick was in the crowd with no shirt on. I don't know how he was in that weather. It was ridiculous. But he was pumped because he knew what he was seeing in Josh Allen, a guy that might be unstoppable. He's running the ball, these quarterback powers. He's throwing the ball. Isaiah McKenzie is a new added dimension to this offense with getting him the ball as a runner or his speed as a threat as a receiver. They're playing, if you notice, they're playing Cole Beasley a lot less and Isaiah McKenzie a lot more. Diggs did his part. Gabriel Davis had a good game. Dawson Knox had a good game. The offensive line continues to get better and better and better in the run and the pass game. Not just pass protection, but also run blocking. And they physically dominated New England on both sides of the ball. Defensively, they prove that they're not soft. They stopped the run. They didn't allow that 6 offensive lineman package to win the game for New England. They downright dominated it. Sure, the Patriots made a few plays, but whenever they did, the Bills responded with big plays of their own. I thought Buffalo was phenomenal in the game. They did nothing wrong. They were downright dominant, and that's not going to happen every game. The Bills have rarely this season, all of their wins have been by 12-plus points, if you've noticed. They have not won a close game. So I think the only interesting thing is, how are they going to act in a close game? They lost, I think, to Tampa in a close game, a couple other games that were pretty close that they lost. They haven't won a close game. So that's something I guess you could point at and nitpick and say, okay, what if this Chiefs game's close? Who's going to win it in the end? But that just speaks to how dominant Buffalo has been. And Buffalo, in many ways, is like I've said many times, entering the playoffs. They're a team that underwhelmed in the regular season. This was a team that if you flipped close losses, they would have been 15-1 or 16-1. Right? In games that were decided by 6 points, if you flipped the wins and losses, they would have been 16-1. That's how good they were this year. And how dominant they are. Statistically, they're the best team in football. And they remind me a lot of the 2010 Packers in a way. A team that when you look at the roster and you look at the pieces and you look at the track record, you say, this team is a lot better than their regular season record suggests. And that team ended up kind of making a run as a wild card team. A little bit, this is what we're seeing from Buffalo, where you're seeing a quarterback take the league by storm, just dominating. And they've got the balance on both sides. They've got playmakers on offense. They've got a good defense. They remind me a lot of that team where, sure, the regular season record wasn't impressive, but that, like, statistically, they rank very well. And overall, they've been very dominant, and they should be favored versus the Chiefs. Like, as far as who looks more impressive, who looks like the better team, I understand it's in Arrowhead. I understand they won last year, all of that stuff. I'll probably end up picking Buffalo to win this game. I just think they look so good from both sides. They look very balanced. I think they've improved their running game. I think they've improved their run defense. I understand that they don't have Tre'Davious White in the secondary, but they're a good, solid defense. They're very well coached on both sides of the football. This is a very, very, very good team. Like, don't get it twisted. And Patriots fans, don't be upset for losing to this team. This is a good team. This is a good team. So the Bills look very scary to me, and everything I saw from the Patriots game just reaffirmed it, that they have that extra gear. It felt like they were waiting for the playoffs to get this thing rolling. They are a much better team. I understand that their record isn't as good as last year. This is a much better team than they were last year. It's not even close. Josh Allen is a lot better. Their receiving core is a lot better right now. They're in terms of not Diggs, not Beasley, but everybody else is playing better. I think their running game is better. I think their defense is a lot better than last year. And I think their coaching staff in this team has learned a ton from last year and from the experiences of the last couple of years in the playoffs. They now understand what it takes to win. And that's something that's dangerous. You've got to go through those bumps in the road to be able to get to where you want to go. And I get it. It's just the Patriots. But now they have an opportunity to prove on the road in Arrowhead that they're the real legit team. And I think they're going to give the Chiefs fits. I think what I've seen from this offense, it's going to be very difficult for the Chiefs to slow them down. The amount of man coverage that the Chiefs play, it doesn't match up for a great game plan versus this Buffalo team, and I hope the Chiefs understand that. And on the flip side, I think the Bills are playing a lot better defense than they were in previous matchups. So, congratulations to Buffalo. You look like a very good team. Now, the question is, can you take that same energy, that same passion, that same spite that you had for the Patriots and put it up and wrap it up and put it all into a game plan and motivate you to beat the Chiefs? Chiefs are a step up in competition from the Patriots, right? And it felt like earlier in the year, the Bills had that energy. They had that spite to beat the Chiefs. It felt like they really wanted to win that game. Are they going to come in with that game again? Because the Bills here have an opportunity to kind of beat all the teams that they've lost to in the past, to sort of have a revenge tour, so to speak. They have the opportunity to beat the Patriots. They have the opportunity to beat the Chiefs. They might have the opportunity to beat the Titans. They might even have the opportunity to beat the Bucs. So we'll see. But the Bills, they look really scary. They look really, really good. And please stop the spamming in the chat. For the people that are in charge of the chat, please take care of that. But those are my thoughts on the Buffalo Bills. Let me know what you guys think. Am I overrating them? Am I overreacting to them? Obviously, I picked them to go to the Super Bowl before the playoffs started. And I think I am reaffirmed and feeling more confident about that pick. So let me know in the comments. My Patriots plan. Let's take a sip of water. Just block the guy, bro. Just block him. All right. Let's talk about the Patriots. I got to talk about this stupid team. Hold on. All right. If you guys haven't already, make sure that you do. Gronk! Spike the like button. Okay. My Patriots plan. And I planned on potentially making a video more in depth than what I'm currently going to go through here. But I do want to talk about the Patriots, the future. And a lot of Patriots fans have been asking, Mitch, what do they do in the offseason? What's the plan? How do they get better? So this is what I want to say about the Bills game. I said it earlier. This ass kicking that was laid on the New England Patriots in Buffalo is in a way a good thing. Because now they can learn how far they are from Buffalo, how far away they are from competing, how far away they are from winning this division, how far away they are from beating Josh Allen, from winning the AFC, from getting back to a Super Bowl under Bill Belichick. Now Bill Belichick, a guy that loves to craft, loves to game plan, he can look at his roster, understand where the deficiencies are, assess it, and adjust. And he recrafted this team this offseason to get it back to the playoffs. Successful. First season with a rookie quarterback. Successful. Now is his opportunity this offseason to craft a team that can take the next step. Like I said, the Patriots, unfortunately, they didn't have that extra gear. We were waiting for it all season. They were capable of beating the bad teams and, quite frankly, beating the piss out of the bad teams. They were capable of doing that. And they were capable of competing with a lot of teams, but they weren't capable of rising to the occasion and winning versus the good teams in the playoffs. Next year, we'll see if they're able to do that. Now, clearly with a rookie quarterback, there's only so much you can do. As I said, it's going to be very difficult to win in the playoffs with a rookie quarterback. And as we said, the identity of the team was the defense. And over the last few games, the defense never showed up. So, starting with the defense. Clearly, the Buffalo Bills are a matchup that gave them a lot of issues. A lot of issues. And I think we saw why. So, New England has been a secondary and a team that over the last few seasons, I would say really dating back to 2014, to be honest with you, has heavily relied on the ability to play man coverage. And they've always put the importance on having cornerbacks. And this season, I think, was the season where they had the least amount of talent at the cornerback position for the entirety of the year than they've had in many seasons. Even their worst seasons as a defense, they had better cornerback play. And they shifted and they were able to get over the hump versus bad offenses. But I think what we saw versus Buffalo was they just didn't have any capacity to match up. From a man-to-man perspective, outside of J.C. Jackson, they had no capacity to match up. They lost Jonathan Jones during the season, who's a very, very underrated player. Very underrated player. A great nickel corner, and will be back next year, hopefully, from the injury. And that should help. But you've got J.C. Jackson as a free agent. He may or may not be back. I'm not sure what the plan is going to be there. Personally, I would re-sign him, but I don't know what they're going to do. He's young. He's in his prime. He's had his best season of his career, and I think for a majority of the matchups, he played very, very well. He even limited Stephon Diggs in pretty much most of the games. You know, Diggs made his plays. He's a great player, but he wasn't the reason they lost. You know, it was the other matchups more so, you know, the Isaiah McKenzie's, the Gabriel Davises, the Emmanuel Sanders, the Dawson Knox. When you look at guys like Miles Bryant, you know, not capable of doing that. Jawan Williams in this playoff game, just not capable. No Jalen Mills, huge loss, obviously. So even just with the ability to have the J.C. Jackson, Jonathan Jones, Jalen Mills would have been much better. But from a cornerback perspective, if they want to continue to be a man-heavy team, they've got to get those stud cornerbacks. And they don't have that right now. If they want to shift their type of defense, then go ahead. But here's the problem. The problem with New England was that without the ability to play man-heavy, they were exposing their linebackers to play in space and play zone. And the New England Patriot linebackers from 2001 on have never been capable of being zone players. Like Dante Hightower, Jawan Bentley, even Jamie Collins at this point, none of them, and Collins would be your most capable, none of them are great in space. None of them are coverage players. None of them are zone players. Like this isn't the Colts, right? This isn't Darius Leonard. This isn't Deion Jones. This isn't Fred Warner. Like, that's not how you craft your linebacking core. Your linebackers are meant to be downhill run defenders and blitzers and rushers and versatile pieces and all different, you know, capable of dropping back in coverage, but not necessarily being this guy that can cover all the space, especially at the age of Jamie Collins, at the age of Dante Hightower, at the age of Kyle Van Noy. They're all old. The linebacking core is old, it's slow, and when you expose them to zone coverage, they can't play in that system. So you had a problem of being bad in man and bad in zone because you don't have the matchup corners to play man, you don't have the ability at linebacker to play zone, so you're just effed, right? So the future, right? The safeties. Adrian Phillips is re-signed. Kyle Duggar, I think, is a stud. So both of those guys are going to be there for a while. And those will be foundational pieces. And I really like their ability to both be guys that can play man, can play zone, can play deep, can play in the box. Devin McCourty, obviously, got to decide whether he's going to retire or not. I would love to have him back. I thought he had a great season this year for the most part and is still a very good free safety. But I think they're probably going to say goodbye to Hightower. Wouldn't be surprised if he retired. I think Kyle Van Noy is probably going to be back in some capacity, but as an edge rusher, right? Jamie Collins is a free agent. Jawan Bentley is a free agent. All their linebackers are free agents. They're probably all going to be gone. I think there's an opportunity here to recast your linebacking core and potentially get more athletic linebackers or just more safeties, more defensive backs, more corners, more ability to play sub-package defense and play man and play zone with better athletes. I think potentially even having safeties who are sort of linebackers and playing that role, like more Adrian Phillip type players might not be a bad idea. More Pat Chung type of players for this defense might not be a bad idea. From a front seven perspective, from a pass rushing perspective, Matt Judon's obviously going to be there. Had a very good start to the season. Kind of people started to figure him out at the end because he didn't have much help around him. Christian Barmore, I think, is one of the best young D tackles this team has had in many seasons since Vince Wilfork, to be honest with you. But it is very disappointing that Chase Winovich and Josh Uche never really became a part of this defense. And that is very disappointing given their athleticism and their profile. And I thought their sparks that they've shown over the years, they were never utilized at the end of the season. So from a defensive perspective, getting faster, getting more athletic, and getting cover guys is going to be huge for them. And we'll see how they craft that. But they've got plenty of opportunity to redo it with a lot of these guys becoming free agents. But J.C. Jackson should be at the top of the priority list. They already re-signed Adrian Phillips. And then offensively, I think it's a lot easier to predict the future of the offense. You've got an offense that you look at the offensive line, right? They have basically everybody back next year except for Trent Brown. Trent Brown's a free agent. I would look to re-sign him potentially, and I think he wants to stay in New England. He was very good for them this year. If you can keep that offensive line continuity heading into next year, that might be a good idea. Tight end wise, I love what I saw from Hunter Henry for most of the year, but I didn't love what I saw from Jonnu Smith. They never used him properly. He never really performed to the level of expectation, and it's going to be hard to get rid of him because of the contract. Same with Nelson Aguilar at wide receiver, poorly utilized. I think a lot has to be said about the coaching and the utilization here. Nelson Aguilar is a talented football player that had a lot of success with the Raiders. How come that never happened with the Patriots? Why wasn't he put in position to have success the same way he was with the Raiders? So maybe another year in the system will help, but I feel like you could maybe flip him for a draft pick or something and get some of that cap space back and look elsewhere. But when we're talking about offense, what I learned from this game was Mac Jones is the future of the Patriots. I thought Mac Jones was one of the few players that actually came to play for New England versus Buffalo. I thought he played pretty well. Did he have his mistakes? Yes. The Hyde interception not being one of them, that was a great pass. But he made some mistakes. I felt like Mac Jones played really, really well and proved that he is the future of this franchise. But you've got to support him with the weaponry to be great. Okay? And Dante Scarnecchia, the best offensive line coach of all time, came out and talked about this. Former Patriots offensive line coach came out and talked about this, that they need a number one receiver. Essentially, he went on and he talked about how they always had an Edelman, they always had a Welker, they even had an Amendola, a Deion Branch, a Troy Brown, a guy that on third down could beat man coverage, could get open, and could convert third downs. And that's something that they currently don't have. Myers is a nice player. Bourne showed up in this game and played a good game, and he could be a piece for the future as well and grow with Mac Jones. But quite frankly, they don't have that number one piece. The guy that is going to be there, that is the security blanket for Mac Jones. They do not have that guy. And it doesn't have to be, and this is what people get wrong about New England, it doesn't have to be the vertical threat. It doesn't have to be the prototypical number one receiver. It doesn't have to be the Randy Moss. But it's got to be a guy that you have to respect. You've got to double team. And quite frankly, the Patriots have always had the position of the slot receiver be more important than the vertical X receiver. That guy's not as important in New England. The guy that's important is the slot receiver. And that is what they need to find. They need to find the quick, twitchy slot receiver. The Edelman, the next Edelman. That is what they need for this offense. And I think for Mac Jones, I think they need to, and I think we saw enough this year where Mac Jones would be very effective in a spread passing game. I think he would be very good in a short to intermediate passing game where he does have these weapons that can create after the catch, which is something that's missing from this offense, and can separate, get open, a timing offense, a lot like Drew Brees with the Saints or Tom Brady from like 2010 to 2012. That type of offense would be very effective for Mac Jones, in my opinion. So I think that is how you fix the Patriots. That's how you develop the Patriots and take them to the next level. I don't think they're too far from that. And I've already said my bold prediction for next year is that Mac enters that top 10, top 12 quarterback discussion as long as they get him that receiver. And we'll see if that happens. The problem is, I don't know if I have much faith with Belichick getting that player. They haven't really been able to develop that player since Edelman, since Gronk. So we haven't been able to see that for a while. And Tom was making a lot out of a little for a while there. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is more of an offensive team for the next couple of years until they replenish the defense. But with Belichick, you know that there's always going to be a floor of a defense that's going to work for you. So I think the Patriots will be a talented team and a good team and a competitive team. But it does look like they have quite a few things that they need to fix. And that's why this offseason is maybe just as intriguing as last offseason. How do you take, now that you've found your guy, and that's a great start, now that you've found your quarterback, how do you add to that quarterback? And I truly believe that Mac is that guy. And when you look at it, he just doesn't have enough supporting him, especially as a younger player. He had a top 5 rookie season for a quarterback, statistically, that we've seen. But how can you get him to the next level? And I think that starts with getting him a number 1 receiver. And the rest is there offensively. I mean, there's not a lot that you can really say. The offensive line is there. The running backs are there. The play caller is probably going to be there for a while. McDaniels has definitely got to look in the mirror, because I felt like there was game plans where they weren't great. And just adding on to this offense with him and Mac Jones, and understanding what Mac does well and what Mac doesn't do well. One thing I will say about that is, why are RPOs not a part of this offense? I mean, Mac was so good at that at Alabama. That hasn't been a part of his game in New England, which I'd like to see next year. But that's my soliloquy on the Patriots. I was proud of the team this year. I thought they did a lot of good things. Getting back to the playoffs as quickly as they did after Brady, I thought was very impressive from Belichick. And they had a lot of bright moments and exciting moments, and it felt good and proud to be a Patriots fan again, because last year was very bleak and very dark, and it sucked. But this year, I think there's a bright spot, and I think there is a light at the end of the tunnel that you can see the different ways that they can attack this thing. So I think New England Patriots fans, be proud of what this team did, and moving forward, look forward to the future to being a good one. All right. So enough of New England. I know a lot of non-Patriots fans don't want to hear me go on and on about that team. But let's talk about Tom Brady's team, all right? So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and this is funny, they played a 7 seed, right? And the funny thing is that everybody is going on and on about now, including myself later on, but this is a difference, okay? So everybody is now saying that 7 seeds don't deserve to be in the playoffs. Well, it's funny because a lot of people were picking the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A lot of people were picking them to cover the spread. A lot of people were saying that the Philadelphia Eagles are going to give the Bucs a game, that they're going to beat the Bucs, that it's going to be competitive, that the Bucs don't know what's coming, that the Bucs are too beat up to beat the Eagles, blah, 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 blah. But it's funny how that works, right? And there's our guy, sports fan, in the chat, and I don't want to blame him because he's an Eagles fan, but there's a lot of people that were saying that. There was a lot of people that were saying the Eagles are going to give the Bucs a good game, that they're going to beat the Bucs. There was far more people saying that than the Steelers about the Chiefs. And the Bucs came out and were up 31-0 in this game. 31-0 in this game. 31-0. That was the score. It was absolute domination on both sides of the football in the third phase on special teams. It was domination. Now let's take a look at this super chat. Marcus, thank you, says, make no mistake, this season was a success for New England. Appreciate that, Marcus. You're the man, bro. All right. So let's first talk about the Bucs defense, which I think is absolutely, if they are going to make that Super Bowl repeat, which a lot of people are picking the Rams, which is fine. Rams are a talented team. With Tampa Bay, defensively, that's the way they've got to win the Super Bowl. I said it at the beginning. We know Tom Brady's going to come and play his game, and he's going to be great. He's Tom Brady. But when it comes to Tampa Bay, their success hinges on their defense. The Bucs knew that the Eagles would run the ball and try to run the ball and try to establish the run. And I think not a lot of people are talking about this. The Eagles were the number 1 rushing attack in the NFL entering that game. And yes, Tampa Bay is a really good run defense, but everyone throughout the week was saying, oh, Tampa Bay's run defense, and everyone was saying this, literally everybody. Tampa Bay's run defense isn't what it was last year. The Eagles literally did nothing in this game. Guys, they were the number 1 rushing offense in the NFL. Number 1. Better than anybody. They did nothing in this game running the ball. Nothing. It was so bad that now people are saying that Jalen Hurts is just like not even an NFL capable quarterback because he was put in such terrible positions to succeed in this game, like I talked about with the Cardinals. But everybody just assumed that the Eagles were going to run for 5 yards a carry in this game. And now it doesn't feel like anybody's giving the Bucs defense credit for what they were able to do. They were able to completely shut down the best running game in the NFL. They got nothing going. And they tried throwing these screen passes, nothing going. I thought the Bucs defense was a different level from every other unit I saw this weekend. And I understand it's versus the Eagles. But again, guys, this is a defense that was number 1 in the running game. And an offense that I thought was actually, coming in a little bit underrated because they were like ranked 12th in DVOA. Even their passing game wasn't too terrible. Obviously, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, they've got a couple talented players. But when you looked at the Bucs, everyone was saying things, assuming that they'd be the same unit because of what they look like in the regular season. And I think they showed that extra gear. And again, guys, this is back to the theme of the entire show. The Bucs defense rose the level of this team. The secondary, everybody being back in the fold except for Sean Murphy-Bunting in this game, showed up huge, right? The ability to stop the run, the energy, the speed of Devin White and Levante David just took over. Jamel Dean, Carlton Davis on the outside playing cornerback, Mike Edwards at safety, Whitehead at safety, phenomenal. Winfield at safety, great game for him. Like, this defense looked like the defense from last playoffs. It looked like the defense that was dominating the Saints, that was dominating Aaron Rodgers, that was dominating Patrick Mahomes. That is what this defense looked like to me. Todd Bowles, TBD, the TBD defense, that was what they looked like to me. He was sending pressure from left and right and center at the end of the game. And really, they kind of just let their foot off the gas in the fourth quarter. I wish they didn't, but it's understandable. The game was 31-0, and they just kind of cruised from there on out. The Eagles are a football team that they didn't belong in the playoffs. We're going to talk about that later on. But the Bucs defense, you line them up across the board, they're the best defense in the playoffs. So the Rams are going to have to get through that in order to advance. And it's tough because if you can just not run on a team, which I don't think any team in the playoffs can run on this team. I don't care if you're the Titans. I don't care who you are. You're not going to run on this team. So when one phase of the game is completely shut down, the question is, are you going to be able to pass all game with that pass rush getting after you and Todd Bowles scheming things up? And with that, I think that the Bucs have an opportunity with Tom Brady on the other side to get back and win that Super Bowl, especially the way the X Factor Devin White played in this game. I think the biggest bright spot, if you're a Bucs fan, Devin White did not have a good season this year. He didn't look like the same player. He wasn't playing with the same energy. And this just felt like a guy that was waiting for the playoffs to turn it on. And you saw that in this game. He was all over the place. Like left, right, center. He was making plays, great tackles, pressure. He was amazing in this game. Coverage, he was great in this game. Devin White was just superb. And that is the guy that I needed to see. And he is the guy that I feel like brings that energy to this team. And that's what we saw in this game. So all the credit in the world to the Bucs defense. They knew what they had to do. They knew what the Eagles were going to try to do. They completely shut it down. And they're the reason that this team coasted to a victory. On the flip side, Tom Brady did his thing. Tom Brady diced him up. Mike Evans had over 100 yards. Gronk had a touchdown. I thought Giovanni Bernard played really well in this game. I think that is going to be something that has to come in handy versus LA in the next round, because that's certainly a team that running backs out of the backfield can be handy against, especially if Leonard Fournette doesn't come back and contribute to this team. The only thing I will say about the offense is we didn't really get to see much from Perryman and Tyler Johnson. You know, those guys weren't really in the mix too much. So will they be asked to do more this week? Will they be asked to make plays? Will they step up to the occasion in that game versus the Rams? I thought this game was largely, carried by Mike Evans, Gronk, Bernard, and even Vaughn to some extent. And the offensive line played really well when they had all 5 guys in there. They pushed the Eagles around, which is a good front four. But then we saw they can be exposed when Tristan Wirfs was out, when Ryan Jensen was out. Although Ryan Jensen might be the toughest football player in the NFL. I'm just going to throw that out there. The guy missed half a play and then he came back. Tristan Wirfs tried it and then wasn't able to come back. Looks like I read from Ian Rappaport that it appears he's going to play, but I'm not sure if he's going to be 100%. So definitely the offensive line is going to be interesting, but I think the inclusion of Cam Brate, maybe OJ Howard, but there's definitely ways where I feel the Bucs, and we'll talk about that matchup next week. But I think I liked what I saw from Brady. I thought he played amazing. I thought the ball from his hand, he looked really, really good, and I will check the Super Chats in a second. I thought Brady's arm looked just as good as week 1. The guy was throwing rockets out there. There was no real level from me watching Josh Allen the night before, and then watching Tom Brady. That guy was throwing missiles. He was almost throwing it too hard at the beginning of the game, and he was throwing it in wind too, 20-mile-per-hour wind. So, yeah, Tom looked really, really good, and they're going to need that Tom moving forward in these playoffs. I think the Bucs looked exactly how I wanted them to look. They looked really impressive. They looked dominant until they didn't need to look dominant anymore. And that is kind of funny because I felt like when I watched the Rams, they were doing trick plays up by 21 points. Odell was throwing the ball when they were up 21-0, which I don't think they needed to do. But Tampa Bay was just kind of okay, we're going to get this huge lead and then the game's going to be over. And that's the way it was. But yeah, the Bucs look like the Bucs, and that was good to see as a person that believes that they can be a very good team. And as a person that believes that I think everyone in their mom is underrating them, especially entering the playoffs. I don't think enough people are picking the Bucs to go back-to-back, which I think is interesting. Let's check these Super Chats. About Sports Fan, Lenny B says, Eagles run O good, Bucs run D great, Eagles lose. Rams, I would say the Eagles offense is faster than the Rams offense, actually. Ultra says from $4.99, thank you. Eagles Bucs was what we call a splattering. Thank you, Ultra. I appreciate that. And to just refine that point about the speed, the Eagles receivers are actually very fast. The problem was Jalen Hurts couldn't really get the ball there. Yvonne says, what's up, Mitch? What's going on, brother? Any final points with the Bucs? I think just doubling down on that last final point, I feel like Tom Brady and Todd Bowles, that's the combination right there. That's the combination, I said it to Ultra, it's Tom Brady and it's Todd Bowles. It doesn't really matter what Bruce Arians does. It's Tom Brady, it's Todd Bowles. And I loved how Mike Evans looked too. He was awesome. Darius Slay this year is a top 5 corner in the league. And Mike Evans was just unreal. So, another guy that might be a little underrated. All right, next topic. Okay. The San Francisco 49ers, they went to Dallas and they beat the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the problem for me is not that everyone was picking Dallas, because that's not true. A lot of people were picking the 49ers. I would say this was a 50-50 split for who people were picking. But the funny thing about that is the post-game comments, okay? So obviously I picked the 49ers, and I was very confident in that pick. I was so confident I bet on it. Money line. I got the Niners. They won the game, and they dominated the game for the most part. With the San Francisco 49ers, the funny thing to me is, after they just beat the 3 seed in the NFC, nobody is talking about that they won the game. Everybody is talking about how the Cowboys lost, how the Cowboys were pathetic, how they didn't show up, how Kellen Moore sucked, how Mike McCarthy's a dumbass, how Dak didn't play to the elite level that we expected, how the offensive line imploded, how go on and on, Zeke sucks, go on and on, CD and Amari Cooper didn't show up, Trevon Diggs is getting routed every play, or that the D-line didn't make enough plays, or that they didn't take advantage of the potential comeback, or the refs. Refs is a big one. Oh boy, the refs. Quite frankly, the better team on the field on Sunday was the San Francisco 49ers, and it wasn't really close. 49ers were dominant in the first half of this game. They were up 13-0. I believe they were up 16-7 and then 23-7 at a certain point. They were the better team. It wasn't close. Every facet of the game, from playmakers to offensive line play to defensive line play to coaching to special teams, like whatever you want to talk about. Even the secondary was better. And even, quite frankly, for at least 2 quarters, the quarterback play was better. So there's a lot of different approaches I could go with this. Did I miss a super chat? Hold on. I'm not sure if I did. Yes, I did. Leo says, let me put this up. Lenny, Jensen and Wirfs likely are playing Sunday. Thank you, Leo, for that. So there you go, Lenny. But with the 49ers, let's start offensively. I thought they were going to be able to run the ball much better than they did. I thought they ran the ball fairly well, but it wasn't like dominant, right? I thought the Cowboys, and this is something I will say about Dallas, I thought Dan Quinn's defense, although the ball was moved on them, blah, 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 the Niners, their offense outperformed the Dallas defense. I didn't think that it was a downright, disaster. I thought the best part from the Cowboys in this game was actually their defense's ability to keep them in the game at a certain point. And Jimmy, on that note, delivered on a couple of big throws in tight window, third down situations, where his best plays of the game were a couple of third downs early in the game that he executed. One in particular, I think it was to Jennings. I could be wrong, but it was like an out route towards the left sideline. And I want to say it was out of the slot. And Jimmy hit him right on the money. I thought Jimmy had a really good start to this game. I thought he was really effective, efficient. And then there was other moments where Jimmy was Jimmy, right? He had that big miss to Ayuk that would have sealed the game in the second half. He had the interception, which was just absolutely pathetic. Like, he had a guy wide open, and he was rolling to the right. He just totally missed him. You don't see a good quarterback miss that throw very many times. And Jimmy, I can't even really fault him for trying the pass. It's just like the accuracy was so terrible that it was so off. So there were plays that Jimmy missed, and that is the concern moving forward for the Niners. But there's also plays where you're really encouraged by what you saw, especially early in the game, where I thought he played pretty well. Offensive line-wise, I thought they did a good job protecting him. Trent Williams, again, had a phenomenal game. I thought Kyle Juszczyk had a great game in this one, blocking, receiving, running, whatever it was for him to do. George Kittle was a little bit underwhelming. I thought he'd have a bigger role in this game than he did. I thought Debo was the best player in the game from a rushing perspective, from a receiving perspective, pure game breaker. They couldn't cover him. They couldn't handle him. Brandon Ayuk made a fair share of plays. He also got open a few times on Trevon Diggs and shoved it right up Durkant's ass. And Mitchell played pretty well too. It wasn't like phenomenal. But overall, I thought the offense did their part. Defensively is really where they surprised me from a San Francisco perspective. I knew that Kyle Shanahan was going to have a solid game plan, especially early on, to give them the edge in this game against Dan Quinn's defense. But I thought that maybe I underestimated how much talent is on defense for the Dallas Cowboys, and they played well in that second half. Now, for the 49ers is their defense. I thought D'Amico Ryans, just want to say this much. Kellen Moore is getting a lot of hype for head coaching jobs. And I understand D'Amico Ryans, this is his first year as a defensive coordinator, but he has improved this defense with less talent, in my opinion, than what Robert Saleh was able to do. I get it. Niners fans love that guy. I think D'Amico Ryans and how he's evolved this scheme and this defense, he's done wonders for the secondary. I think he's done a good job at getting the most out of this front, and he's been great. I think he's been great. I thought he had a great game. He thoroughly outcoached Kellen Moore. Some of the blitzes that they threw at the specific times, like on that fourth down at the end of the game, huge, huge pressure there. Without Nick Bosa, he was still able to create a game plan and put a defense on the field that played well. I think the secondary of the Niners is playing really good football and surprised me a ton with how well they covered the Cowboys in this game. So the 49ers and D'Amico Ryans, I think he should be getting more hype than he's getting for any sort of position. He's not being interviewed at all. The fact that I think Jonathan is his name, Jonathan Gannon of the Eagles, who's absolutely terrible as a defensive coordinator, is getting interviews. Like, this guy plays the most vanilla defense I've seen in years. He's getting interviews and D'Amico Ryans isn't. I think that's downright despicable. It's terrible. It's a joke. So, to me, like, great game from the Niners coaching staff. I thought they thoroughly outcoached them. And quite frankly, a lot of people were questioning the Kyle Shanahan run with the Niners during the season. And the fact of the matter is, and people are going to nitpick Shanahan for not going for it on 4th and 1. I agree with you. Probably you should go for that a majority of the time. Now, the context in that scenario was that the Cowboys weren't moving the ball, so I understood why he kicked the field goal. But personally, so whether you wanted to go for it or not, doesn't really matter to me. I would agree with you either way. Now, with Kyle Shanahan, the fact of the matter is, this guy took the worst quarterback in the playoffs to the divisional round, period. I don't care what he does from here on out, and I just praise Jimmy Garoppolo. He played a good game. But the fact of the matter is, when you look across the board, when you look at Aaron Rodgers, when you look at Tom Brady, the greatest of all time, Kyler Murray was a first overall pick. He lost. You got Matthew Stafford, first overall pick, and a guy who took the Lions to the playoffs. You've got he won over Dak Prescott. Who else advanced in the playoffs? Josh Allen advanced in the playoffs, who's literally Superman. I tweeted about this, right? You've got Joe Burrow, who's a first overall pick. Jimmy G, when you compare him to Joe Burrow, when you compare him to Pat Mahomes, when you compare him to Josh Allen, when you compare him to Tom Brady, when you compare him to all these guys that advanced, he's not even on the same level. So the fact of the matter is, Kyle Shanahan was able to get Jimmy G to the second round, and he did the most with the least out of any of these coaches in this round, period. Also, a funny stat that I saw was that Brady is older than all of the NFC coaches. That's funny to me. He's older than Matt LaFleur. He's older than Kyle Shanahan. He's older than Sean McVay. That's hilarious, is it not? I don't know. But keep sleeping on San Francisco, guys. They're a top 10 offense. They're a top 10 defense. Robbie Gould is kicking really well. Their return game's solid. As long as Jimmy G doesn't F it up, They're challenging. And they're also a difficult matchup for a lot of teams, including the team they're about to play at Lambeau Field. This is a difficult matchup for the Packers because the Packers, quite frankly, are terrible versus the run. Terrible. They're 31st versus the run. And the Niners are going to run it down their throat. If they don't stop it, they're going to lose. So the Niners were a difficult matchup for the Cowboys, and I told you. And now they're a difficult matchup for the Packers. Will they win? I'm not sure yet. But I'm just telling you that game is not going to be easy for the Green Bay Packers. I don't care where it's played. If it's on Mars, Pluto, Lambeau, or San Francisco, it doesn't matter to me. It's going to be tough. So stop sleeping on San Fran. I get it. Dallas, they suck. Their penalties, McCarthy, Kellen Moore, Dak, you want to blame the Cowboys, you want to blame the refs, you want to blame anybody. But what you got to do first is you got to credit the 49ers for simply being the better team. It's funny because everybody's playing the blame game. Everybody's playing Kanye West the blame game. Everybody is doing the blame pie. 50% this, 30% that, 20% this. The biggest percent should just go to the Niners because they're better. Period. I don't care. Period. Okay? Let's get to the next topic. Now, the next topic is the Cowboys because we've got to talk about the Cowboys. I just spilled all over my face. The Dallas Cowboys. Okay, where are my notes? All right. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys. First of all, Dak Prescott. I had a lot of respect for you. Keyword had. A lot of respect for you. But Dak, you can't be sitting up there after the game that you lost, that you played like doggy doo-doo in. You're sitting at the podium. You're asked a question about the fans throwing stuff at the refs. And you say, credit to them. You lost all my respect, Dak Prescott. You're supposed to be this great guy at the podium. You're supposed to give everybody this vibe of being a good dude, of being the guy that says the right thing. You're supposed to be Chris Evans, Captain America. But you're not. You acted like Bucky Barnes, okay? You're blaming people for your losses. You're blaming people for your shortcomings. You are playing loser ball here. You're acting like a loser. You're at the podium blaming the refs for losing the game. Dak, you cannot do that. That is loser. And that's all I needed to know. Once I saw that, I said, well, no wonder they lost the game. Because they're blaming the refs for losing the game. They don't have enough discipline. And this is where it all stems from. The culture of the Dallas Cowboys, as great as the mystique is, as cool as the helmets and the uniforms are, as expensive as the stadium is, as fat as the coach is, they're losers. Losers. Mike McCarthy is a loser. Dak Prescott is a loser. CeeDee Lamb, loser. Randy Gregory, just a fat L. They're all L's across the board. Everybody keeps talking about the coaching staff. They let the team down. The players are a bunch of losers too. I don't want to hear it. They're losers. The culture from top to bottom is loser. They don't teach, obviously, what a penalty is and what a penalty is not. Their coaching and their attention to detail is horrendous. You've got to blame Mike McCarthy, because Mike McCarthy, your team can't take 14 penalties in the playoffs. You can't take 14 penalties, and then after you take 14 penalties, you blame the refs for those penalties when every single one, go back and watch the replay, is egregious. It's offside, it's false start, it's holdings that are obvious. Like, come on. This is the details that you need to win in this league. You can't take 14 penalties. You can't take 4 penalties that are game drive ending plays. 4 drives were ended by penalty by the Dallas Cowboys. And a lot of people are going to sit there and they're going to blame Kellen Moore's offense. Now, it's a double-sided coin. Kellen Moore wasn't great in this game. Don't get me wrong, especially on the play call. Everyone's talking about the stupid quarterback draw, the Dak draw. Bro, I don't care if they got the play. They wouldn't have scored. So stop talking about a stupid play that doesn't even fucking matter. Stop it. Okay? I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't care if you got a 1 more second in the game. The game was over. You're not going to block them. You haven't blocked them for 60 fucking minutes. You weren't going to do it in the last second, so it didn't matter. Anyways, who cares about the stupid draw? After that, you've got Kellen Moore, who didn't have a good game. He's not finding ways to get the ball to his playmakers. He's not finding ways to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb. He's not finding ways to get Amari Cooper the ball. That's his fault. I don't know whose fault it is for playing Zeke Elliott over Tony Pollard. I don't know whose fault it is, because clearly somebody is blind. I don't know who's on the Dallas Cowboys. Somebody is blind. Does anyone watch Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott and say that Zeke Elliott is better? How can you possibly watch the last 5 games of the year? Zeke looked good at the beginning of the year. Every single game he's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And Tony Pollard's looked better and better and better and better and better. How? That's another side point. You don't attack the weakness of the Niners, which is the cornerback position. I told you this in the preview. They're not going to do it. And here's what I want to say about the offense. First, it's hard to convert 3rd and 15. It's hard to convert 3rd and 12. It's hard to convert 3rd and 11 every time you take a penalty to hurt yourself and put yourself in a terrible position, especially against a good defense that's top 10, that's good against the pass, that's good against the run. When you run on early downs for a yard, it's not going to work. And then, on top of that, you're trying to block a really good D-line. So you're asking even an offensive line that I told you is overrated, by the way. You're asking this offensive line to block a really good pass rush on 3rd and 12 every time. It's not going to work. So even if Kellen Moore called the greatest play known to humankind, it didn't matter, because they weren't blocking anybody. So there's that portion of it. And then there's the other portion that's like, hold up, let's talk about Dak Prescott for a second. Did Dak Prescott in this game make one throw where you said, wow, that was an elite throw? Did Dak Prescott in this game make a single play where you said that looked like the top 5 quarterback that we thought he was? I don't know what happened. In the first 6 weeks, Dak Prescott was absolutely phenomenal. He was an MVP quarterback. Ever since then, the guy has looked more Kirk Cousins than Kirk Cousins. What plays in this game did Dak Prescott make where you said, wow? You said, that was a phenomenal throw. That was a great scramble. That was a great ability to buy time to maneuver the pocket and find a receiver. He elevated the rest of the offense. I didn't see a single play that made me say, wow. Dude, I saw more plays by Mac Jones in the first drive of the Patriots game than I did from Dak in an entire 60 minutes. And everyone was ripping Mac Jones to shreds. I saw more plays from Jimmy G in that game than I did from Dak. Am I wrong? They didn't run the ball enough. They ran the ball too much. They were running the ball for 2 yards a carry. That's not going to get it done. You can't run versus the 49ers. They're too solid up front. We knew this. You got to put the ball in your MVP's hands. And he wasn't the MVP. Dak had the most underwhelming performance of any quarterback this weekend outside of maybe Kyler Murray. There's so much to say about this team. Kellen Moore should not be getting head coaching opportunities. Mike McCarthy should be absolutely positively fired. Absolutely positively, because Mike McCarthy has infected this entire franchise with loser mentality, starting at the top, and now we see it in Dak Prescott. There's a problem. They got to get rid of this. Whatever you got to do to get rid of it. They're all a bunch of losers. That's what I got to say about the Dak Prescott Dallas Cowboys. You can't do it. Like Mike Singletary said, you can't win with them. You can't coach with them. You can't play with them. You can't do it. Let's finish off with this. The 7 seeds. I don't need them. Get rid of the 7 seeds. I have so many problems with these 7 seeds. First, I didn't want to watch Big Ben washed Roethlisberger play against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. I could have done without that. I knew it was a foregone conclusion. Literally everybody on their podcast previews were saying, this game is not even worth discussing. It's so bad. On top of that, the Colts, they absolutely blew it. The Chargers absolutely blew it. I blame the Raiders for not allowing the game to be a tie, because at least the game might have been more entertaining. And then on the flip side, you got the Philadelphia Eagles, who beat like 0 teams who were any good. They feasted on terrible football teams, the worst offenses in the NFL, all year long. The 7 seeds are worthless. We've seen these games 4 times. One of them has been competitive. The Colts and the Bills. Other than that, they have been pathetic. We saw Mitch Trubisky and the Bears versus the Saints last year, which everyone knew was a joke. We saw this year, we saw Philadelphia Eagles, who didn't deserve to be there. They were on a different planet than Tom Brady and the Bucs. And the Steelers, who didn't, they said that they had no chance in the press conference. Big Ben said they have no chance. Literally. What is the point? I get it, we want another game, but another game is, if it's worthless, if it's not going to be entertaining, I don't want it. And here's the problem I have with it, okay? I prefer the two buys. It gives more of an edge to the number 1 and the 2 seed. And I'll also say this. You're getting your number 2 seed beat up for the next week. So now Tom Brady's team might not have Tristan Wirfs and Ryan Jensen next week because they had to play the Philadelphia Eagles in a worthless game that was a foregone conclusion. The Kansas City Chiefs are now more beat up to play the Buffalo Bills. What's the point? What if Mahomes got hurt from a hit by Cameron Hayward? What if that happened? What's the point? It's a glorified bye week where you're asking these players to actually play in the game and get hurt. It's just stupid. I don't understand it. It's stupid. It's more hurtful than it is helpful. So, it's stupid. They suck. They're worthless. I don't need them in my life. Just get rid of them. I don't know what else to say here. It's not entertaining. You're just making me stream another game for no reason. So anyways, that is it for your wild card weekend review. I got enough off my chest so that we can flip the page, we can get to the next round, we can get to the divisional round, and we can discuss these next divisional games. I hope you guys enjoyed this live stream, this NFL review show for wild card or super wild card weekend. Make sure that you do Gronk Spike the like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more. And Gronk Spike the notification bell for the latest upload. Also, if you're one of those people that watch me all the time but aren't subscribed, I hate you. So please subscribe. Ultra with the $10 super chat. Thank you, Ultra. He says, the saddest part is that Kansas City and Tampa Bay beat Pittsburgh and Philly in the regular season. They didn't even need to prove that they could beat those teams. That's very true as well. Thank you for that point, Ultra, and thank you for the super chat, my friend. Also, with the divisional round, I believe we have 3 rematches. Bucks, Rams, Packers, Niners, which, in fact, actually both happened in week 3, believe it or not. The Bills, Chiefs is a rematch. The only game in the divisional round that is not a rematch is the Bengals and the Titans. So it's going to be interesting to see what flips and what stays the same from earlier this season. Obviously, a lot of players have come and go since then. A lot of players are healthy or not healthy since then. So we will find out. Oh, we got another super chat. Hate you too, Michael. Michael, subscribe, bro. I got another super chat. It's from Edwin. He says, let's go Niners. I believe the NFL is fixed. Every week, there were players with COVID. There were 14 teams in the playoffs for a week and a half, and nobody has. That's a good. Well, I mean, to be fair, Jalen Mills and Sean Wade of the Patriots did get the vid, so there were a couple players. We'll see how that works for divisional round. But I believe the rest of the games, nobody was put on the list. Thank you for the super chat. I do like rematches in the playoffs just because it adds that extra layer of rivalry to it. All right, guys. That is it. Thanks for watching. We will see you tomorrow night for my picks for divisional round and my in-depth previews. Peace.